by Didi Rameshwari ji, and the topic covered will be why should we love God, what is our aim of life, what is our relationship with God, how should we attain Him, and what we will get once we attain Him. So please, I request all of you to turn off your cell phones, to put it on vibrate mode, so that if people don't get disturbed if we get a phone call. And request you to listen to this lecture attentively and let your friends and family members, acquaintances, if they can attend the next lectures tomorrow until Friday. Radhe Radhe. Thank you all.
अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जन शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। आनन्दकरप्रसन्नं प्रेमस्वरूपं व्रजभावयुक्तम् योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं गुरुं कृपालुं प्रणमामि नित्यम्। नमः कमलनाभाय नमः कमलमालिने नमः कमलपादाय नमस्ते कमलेक्षण यो ब्रह्माणं विदधाति पूर्वं यो वै वेदांश्च प्रहिणोति तस्मै तद्ब्रह्म देवमात्मबुद्धिप्रकाशं मुमुक्षुर्वै शरणमहं प्रपद्ये। Seekers of divine love, as a regular spiritual practice, let us chant for a few minutes, and thereafter I will begin to elaborate on the essence of the Vedas, that is, the philosophy of divine love, giving references from different scriptures, all the scriptures, in fact, the Upanishads, Puran, Bhagavad, Ramayana, etc., Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So it is my honor to be here and to be of service. So let us chant for a few minutes. Bhajo Giridhar Govinda Gopala.
Bhajo Giridhar Govinda Gopala.
Oh, Bhajo Giridhar Govinda Gopala.
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 Bhajo Giridhar Govinda
श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। I will begin with a verse from the Chandogya Upanishad. So the Vedas state, Athadi Damasmin Brahmapure Dahram Pundarikam Veshma Dahrosmin Nantara Kashas Tasmin Yadantas Tadan Veshtavyam. What does this mean? It means that there is a city, the Vedas are saying, that there is a city. In this city, there is a house. In this house, there's a courtyard. In this courtyard, there is empty space. And in this empty space, there is a secret to be known. And one who comes to know this secret no longer needs to know anything else. This is what the Vedas are saying. So what is this city? It's like a puzzle. It is called Brahmapur. And what is this Brahmapur? It is the city of Brahm. And what is this city of Brahm? It is this body. And in this body, there is a house. This is the heart. Pundarikam Veshma. In this heart, there's empty space. And in that empty space, there is a secret to be known. And the secret is called Dahrakash. And this Dahrakash is another name for Brahma or God. So the Vedas are telling us that we must know Brahma or God. Why? Because realizing Him is the only possible way for us to attain freedom from the bondage of Maya. And furthermore, we have been given this human form of life. It is only humans who have been given the freedom to perform fruitive actions, as well as the knowledge, the gift of knowledge. And these two are the indispensable conditions required in the path of realization. It is due to these two reasons that the human form, the human body, is desired by all classes of living creatures and even celestial gods. Even heavenly gods desire this human body. It is so important. So, in spite of all its shortcomings, this human body is desired even by celestial gods, who not only possess a far superior body than the human body, but also an infinitely greater range of knowledge than us. And yet the negative aspect of this human body is that it is temporary. It is transient, fleeting. It can come to an end at any moment. Jagat Guru Shri Kripaluji Maharaj, reflecting on the fleeting nature of this human form, writes in Radha Govind Geet, Ayu jal bulbula Govind Radhe, जाने कब फूट जाए सबको बता दे, पल का भरोसा नहीं गोविंद राधे, जाने कब काल नर तनु छिनवा दे। राधे राधे गोविंद गोविंद राधे। Therefore, the point is, once having attained this human form through the greatest of fortune, through the greatest of blessings, we should at once utilize every precious moment of life towards reaching our ultimate goal. Now here, a question may arise in your mind. You may say, but why is it necessary for us to know God? Why should we bother to make an attempt to know Him? Why should we invest our most valuable time in an effort to know Him, in search of Him? This brings us to today's topic. If we look around, we see that this world is in a constant state of motion. Everyone seems to be doing something or the other. Why? The reason being that no individual endowed, blessed with a mind and an intellect can remain inactive for even a moment. As the Gita states, Nahi kaschit chanamapi jatu tishtatya karmakrit. 3:5. And yet all actions of all living beings in the universe can be broadly divided into two categories. We either perform actions with the mind alone or with the mind plus the body. In other words, we either think or we think and act on it. Think and do. But both are considered as actions. Therefore, the mind, which is the faculty of thinking, is the motivating factor behind all our actions, all our activities. The scriptures say, Priyojana manuddishya mandobi na pravartate. Darshan Shastra say that even the greatest fool works with a definite aim in mind, with a fixed purpose in mind. And what is that purpose? What is that aim? The Bhagavad gives us the answer. Sukhaya karamani karoti loko nataihi sukham vanyaduparamam va. Bhagavad 3:5-2. Every individual endeavors, makes a sincere effort only for the attainment of happiness. The Bhagavad verse states, Sarvesham api bhutanam nirpasvatmaiva vallabha itare patya vittadyas tadvallabha tayaivahi. 10:14-50. The Bhagavad states, if one claims that actions are also performed for the purpose of acquiring wealth, family, and friends, then it should be noted, it should be remembered that the acquisition, the attainment of wealth, family, and friends is not our ultimate aim. Our aim is to attain happiness through wealth, family, and friends. Aristotle, an Athenian philosopher, writes, we choose happiness for itself and never with a view to anything further, whereas we choose honor, pleasure, and intellect because we believe that through them we shall be made happy. Even the leaves of a tree desire happiness. If a thirsty tree does not get water, the leaves of that tree wilt due to sorrow. And when the thirsty tree is watered, when that tree is watered, the leaves become happy once again. He further writes that even a madman in the mental asylum performs his mad antics, his mad tricks, for the sake of happiness. Now the question is, why are we all searching for happiness? Have we been taught to desire happiness as we have been taught other lessons in life? No, we have not received any training in this respect whatsoever. So how is it that we found out on our own to look for happiness in whatever we do when we had to be taught almost everything else in life? As a newborn child, we were not able to recognize even our own mother. And yet, how is it that we were able to recognize our ultimate aim of happiness right from the time we were born? For example, what is the very first reaction of a newborn child? You will say it is to let out a cry, rodan uthana. You see, just as we shout slogans, we want such and such, or we want so and so, the newborn child is also shouting a slogan. And he does so by crying. And his slogan is not the hollow slogan we shout. His slogan comes right from the heart. Why? Because there are two times in life that we experience tremendous pain. The scriptures tell us. One is at the time of birth, and the other at the time of death. Janamat marat dusah dukh hoi. So the child is protesting against the extreme pain experienced by him at the time of birth, and does so by crying. So it is obvious that we all have been searching for happiness right from day one, right from the time we were born. But why? The answer is very simple, but I will give you the answer step by step. First of all, let us understand that every living being is a fraction of God. You have heard this many times. The Vedas state, Jinmatram Shri Hareransham Sukshmam Aksharam Avyayam. Every individual soul is a part and parcel of God. Yau pranasya pranaha. God is the life force of all living beings. Ansho nana vyapadeshat. Brahma Sutra says that being a fraction of God, the individual soul has many relationships, in fact, all the relationships with Him. Lord Krishna Himself tells us in the Gita, Mamaivansho jivaloke jivabhutah sanatanaha. 15:7. The individual soul is an eternal part and parcel of myself. In the Ramcharitmanas we read, Pran pran ke jiv sukh ke sukh ram. Ishwar ansh jiv avinashi. Chetana mal sahaj sukh rashi. Meaning that Shri Ram is the life of all living beings. All right? So we understand that every living being is a part and parcel of God. And the next thing we need to understand is that every part, every fraction, has a natural love for its entirety, its whole, or its origin. For example, take a lump of clay in your hands and let it go. It will fall directly towards the earth. Why? Because it's a part of this earth. Why doesn't it fall on the ground by itself? because you're holding on to it. Once you let go of it, it falls directly on the ground. In exactly the same manner, the individual soul has been holding on to this material world. Once it lets go of it, it will go immediately towards God. Because it is the law of nature that every fraction has a natural love for its source, its origin, its entirety. All rivers flow towards the ocean, their entirety. Flames always rise upwards towards the sun, their source. In exactly the same way, the individual soul, being a part and parcel of God, has a natural love for Him and therefore desires to attain Him. So all living beings are a fraction of God, and since every fraction has a natural love for its source, its entirety, all living beings have a natural love for God. This is the conclusion that we come to. But this still does not answer our question. Why are we searching for happiness? So to get an answer, let us go to the 3rd chapter of the Taittiriya Upanishad, which tells us a nice story, factual story. Maharishi Bhrigu approaches his father, Varun, with the request to teach him about the nature of Brahm, or the supreme entity known as God. He says, Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Father, enlighten me about the nature of Brahm, or the supreme entity known as God. Varun replied, Yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayante abhisamvishanti. Taittiriya Upanishad 3:1. That from which all living beings are born, that by which they are sustained, and that into which they merge ultimately, know that to be Brahm. Maharishi Bhrigu was confused, just like we are at this moment. What is meant by that? So he performed severe penance to find out the true nature of Brahm. Satapo tapyat, satapas taptva. And initially he gained the knowledge that anna, or grain, is the ultimate reality known as Brahm. Annam brahmeti vejanat. It is from food that all living beings are born. It is food that sustains us, and all living beings merge into it ultimately. So he said, we are born of food, or grain. Because the food we eat is converted into juices, ras, and these juices are converted into rakt, blood. From blood is formed muscle, flesh, rather. From flesh is formed muscle, from muscle to bones, from bones to marrow, and from marrow to semen, which is ultimately responsible for birth. Thus, having been born from grain or food, we survive by eating it and ultimately become one with this earth, which produces foodstuff. Therefore, Bhrigu answered that annam brahmeti vyajanat annadhyev khal vimani bhutani jayante annena jatani jivanti annam prayanti abhisamvishanti. Taittiriya Upanishad 3:2. That Anna is Brahma. But his father, Varun, remained dissatisfied, which implied the imperfection of Bhrigu's discovery. Hence, Bhrigu continued his penance for many more days and came to the realization that no, prano brahmeti vejanat. Pran, or the vital breath, is Brahma. It is from Pran that all are born, by it all are sustained, and all merge into it ultimately. But his father was still not satisfied. Hence, Bhrigu resumed penance and progressed to a still higher level of comprehension, and that was Mano Brahmeti Vejanat. The mind is Brahm. So this time he went to his father with this answer, but his father merely told him, he sent him back. He told him, no, you must perform more penance to find out the true nature of Brahm. So for the fourth time, Bhrigu came to the realization that Vijnanam Brahmeti Vyajanat, the soul is Brahm. So he's gradually moving up. So you see, so far, Bhrigu's discovery had been restricted to inanimate entities, such as grain, the vital breath, the mind. These are all devoid of consciousness, and they derive consciousness from the soul, which he identified as Brahma this time. However, his father was not satisfied with this answer either. So he sent Bhrigu back, who resumed penance with even a greater intensity. And finally, he came to know Anandam Brahmeti. Anando Brahmeti, rather. Anando Brahmeti Vyajanat Anandadhyev khal vimani bhutani jayante anandena jatani jivanti anandam priyante abhisam vishanti. Taittiriya Upanishad 3:6. Meaning that Anand is Brahma, bliss is God, God is bliss. It is from bliss that all living beings are born, by it all are sustained, and all merge into it ultimately. So Bhrigu replied that the individual soul in reality is an eternal fraction, an eternal fragment of bliss. In bliss alone he resides, and into bliss he merges upon death, upon final dissolution. So this time, Varun smiled with satisfaction at Bhrigu's discovery, marking the end of his search for God. So we also come to the conclusion that Anand, in this way, that Anand is Brahma, bliss is God, God is bliss. You see, God and bliss are synonymous terms. This is the proclamation of the Vedas. Raso Vaisaha Rasagvam Hyevayam Labdhva Nandi Bhavati. Taittiriya Upanishad 2:7 says that the Supreme Brahma is bliss personified. He is the personification of bliss, and it is only by attaining him that the individual soul can become blissful. The Vedas do not say that there's bliss in him. They say that he is all bliss, he is all ras, nectar. He is the infinite reservoir of bliss, the unlimited ocean of bliss. So now you may ask, a question may come to mind, that have we ever tasted that bliss? For it is our experience that there is happiness in this material world as well. But what is bliss? How do we what is the description of bliss? How would we define bliss or happiness? Let us ask the Vedas. You see, the Vedas are the greatest treasure not only of India but humanity at large. They are the accumulated treasury of spiritual laws revealed to different saints and seekers at different times by God Himself. And they're divine in origin because they were manifested from the natural breath of God. And they give us the definition of happiness. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham nalpe sukhmasti bhuma tvev vijigyasitavyaha. Chandogya Upanishad 7:23:1. Meaning that bliss or happiness, what is the nature of happiness? It is eternal, ever existing, unlimited, infinite, immeasurable, everlasting, and in fact, ever increasing as well. Once it is possessed, once it is acquired, it is possessed forever. Just as darkness can never overcome or engulf light, in the same way, true happiness can never be overcome by sorrow or suffering. Genuine bliss can never be contaminated with the least amount of sorrow. Tulsidas ji writes, Soi sukh lavlesh jina barik sapne hulahu te nahi ganahi khages brahma sukhahi sajjana sumati. Meaning that if anyone were to taste even a particle of that divine bliss, even in a dream, he is sure to forget the bliss of the impersonal Brahm. Then what to say of the mundane pleasures of this world, material pleasures? The bliss of the impersonal Brahm, meaning the formless God. It is godly bliss, but it is of the lowest level. So Tulsidas ji is saying that he will forget the bliss of the impersonal Brahm, then what to speak of material, worldly pleasures. And as for the little happiness that we experience from time to time, what is that? That is a mere reflection of the perennial, the everlasting bliss residing in God. So you see, we are always occupied in our endless search for this divine bliss. And this search is without a beginning, because we ourselves are beginningless. The scriptures tell us that the individual soul is unborn and eternal, similar to his source, God. The Gita too states, Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah ajo nityah shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. (220). Meaning, for the soul, there's never birth, nor death, nor having once been does it ever cease to be. It is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval, of the earliest times, of the earliest age. The Gita further states, Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. 216. Meaning, of the non-existent, there's no coming to be. Of the existent, there's no ceasing to be. Similar to the scientific theory, indestructibility of matter is equivalent to conservation of energy. In other words, something that exists, that has a form, will continue to exist in some form or the other. Matter cannot be destroyed. And something that does not exist can never come into being. We have been in existence since the existence of God, and God has been in existence as long as we have, and both God and we have been in existence since the time when did not exist. In other words, since the time when the concept of time did not even exist. For time only came into being after creation. Aksharat sanjayate kalah, Ved. So since we are beginningless, our efforts to attain happiness are also beginningless. And yet, the surprising fact is that in spite of our incessant search for happiness since beginningless time, we have not even been able to taste even a drop of it so far. Why? Let us inquire into the reason for this and find out why this is so. The Vedas tell us, yasyamatam tasyamatam matam yasya na vedasaha. Kenopanishad 2:3, I believe. He who thinks he can understand God is the most ignorant, whereas he who understands that God cannot be known is the wisest. All right, you may say, no one can know him. Yes. The Bhagavad also states, the divine secrets of God cannot be known to anyone. Lord Krishna himself tells us in the Gita. He says, O Arjuna, veiled by my creative power, Yog Maya, I am revealed to no one. The Ramayana also states, Rama tarkya buddhi manavani mat hamar as sunahu sayani. That Shri Ram is beyond the range of logic, speech, intellect, and mind. So why is it that God cannot be known by us? If we first understand our physical machinery, we will come to understand why we cannot know him. The Vedas state, Indriyebhya para hyartha arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhir buddhir atma mahan parah mahtah paramavyaktam avyaktat purushah parah purushan na param kinchit sa kashtha sa paragati. 3:10:11 Kathopanishad. Meaning, great are the senses. In other words, very powerful are our senses. But even beyond the senses are the subject of these senses, the objects of the five senses, because they govern the senses. And even beyond the sense objects is the mind. And beyond the mind is the intellect. Beyond the intellect is the soul. And beyond the soul is Maya, and beyond Maya is God. And therefore, he is beyond the grasp. God is beyond the grasp of our senses, mind, and intellect. But let us go into the scriptures. Let us go further and find out why this is so. Why is he beyond the reach of our senses, mind, and intellect? The scriptures answer this question with a series of logical explanations. First one being, Divyo himurtaha purukhaha. Today's topic requires a little bit more concentration. It might not be as complex tomorrow, but it is very important that we understand this concept. So the first explanation given in the scriptures as to why our senses, mind, and intellect cannot grasp, cannot reach God, the Supreme Personality, is that Divyo Hyamurtaha Purukha, Mundakopanishad 1:2 says that He is divine, whereas our senses, mind, and intellect are material. So we are in a different realm altogether. The Ramayana also says Maya Guna Gopal. Because our senses, mind, and intellect are material, they can only grasp that which is material. They are unable to grasp the divine. And the second reason given is that God is the inspirer. And our senses, mind, and intellect are inspired by Him. The Ramayana explains, Umandaru yoshit ki nai, sabhi nachavat Ram Gosai. We are all puppets in the hand of God, and we work with His inspiration. So He is the inspirer. And the third explanation is, given by the scriptures, is that He is the illuminator, since He illumines our senses, mind, and intellect and empowers them to perform their respective functions. The scriptures say that His divine light illumines the sun, the moon, the stars. Through His effulgence, the entire universe is illumined, and yet He cannot be illumined by anything or anyone. The Chaitanya Charitamrita beautifully states, Koti koti brahmand je, brahmer vibhati, sei brahma govinder hayang kanti. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Meaning, the brilliance of innumerable universes put together is but a minute spark of the light, of the divine light emanating from the divine body of Sri Krishna. So He is the illuminator, and He cannot be illumined by anything or anyone. And the fourth reason given in the scriptures as to why God cannot be known by us is that the Vedas state, Dyava Prithvyau Vidhrite Tishtataha, meaning that the entire universe is being upheld by 1/4 of His being. Lord Krishna Himself tells Arjuna in the Gita, He says, Arjuna, if you try to know everything about me, you will get confused. Just know one thing, that I pervade and uphold each and every single particle of this universe. This universe is a partial revelation of myself. So obviously, how can the Supreme Upholder be upheld, be grasped by our senses, mind, and intellect, which are being upheld by Him? And the fifth reason is Saveti Vedyam Nachatasyasti Veta, Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3:19 says that He is the knower. God is the knower because He knows whatever there is to be known, and yet He cannot be known by anything or anyone. In fact, what is the definition of God? Vigyata ramare ken vijaniya diti. Ved. The Vedas state, He who knows is God. And the Ramayana, let us understand this logic through the Ramayana. Jo sab ke raha gyan ek ras, Ishwar jeevahi bhed kahahu kas. The Ramayana says, if our intellect were capable of knowing God then God would become subservient to our intellect, and our intellect would be called God instead. Therefore, the senses, mind, and intellect cannot know their knower, God. And the sixth reason, I won't give you all the reasons, this is one of the last reasons, is that He is omniscient, all-knowing, whereas the individual soul is ignorant. Yah sarvagyah sarvavidyasya gyanmayan tapaha. Mundakopanishad 1:9 says that God is all-knowing. The Ramayana also states beautifully, Sumirat jahi mitat agyana so sarvagya Ramo Bhagavana. God is omniscient, all-knowing, whereas we, the individual souls, are ignorant. How is it then? How can we, ignorant beings then, how can an ignorant being who is not omniscient know God through his limited and material senses, mind, and intellect? Our efforts to know Him can be likened to our efforts to measure the depth of the ocean with a 1-foot scale. It is obvious that if we want to measure the depth of the ocean, we must have a scale at least as deep as the ocean. So the point is, when it is impossible to measure the ocean, the depth of the ocean is limited. So when it is impossible to measure even the limited with the limited, then how can we expect to measure the unlimited with the limited? This is the last point. F.H. Jacobi, a German philosopher, has very appropriately remarked. He said, God whom we could understand would be no God. What to speak of God? We see in the world that even the genius are not understood. So for all these reasons, God is beyond the reach of our material and limited senses, mind, and intellect. Furthermore, the scriptures tell us that God is the abode of numerous contradictions. So let us just briefly take a look at some of these contradictions. For example, it is written in the Vedas, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan. Anoraniyan, God is small. You may ask, how small is He? He is smaller than the smallest. He's smaller than even a grain of salt. He's even smaller than an atom, a proton, and a neutron. In fact, He's smaller than the smallest thing imaginable. Anoraniyan. But immediately after defining Him as smaller than the smallest, the Vedas call Him larger than the largest, greater than the greatest. Mahato Mahiyan. So great that nothing is greater than Him. In fact, the word Brahm means the greatest in Sanskrit. But the Vedas do not stop there. Immediately after calling Him greater than the greatest, Anoraniyan Mahato Mahiyan, they go on to say, Neti Netya Sthula Mananuhu. He's neither great, in other words, He's neither big nor small. We can accept the fact that God is smaller than the smallest because He pervades even the tiniest creatures in the universe. And we can also understand the fact that He's larger than the largest because He absorbs everything and everyone into Himself at the time of pralaya, at the time of final dissolution. But it is impossible for us to grasp that He's neither big nor small. And yet all the three statements are correct about Him are correct. And not only that, the scriptures go on to say, Tad dure tad vantike. He is so far that the more you run towards him, the further away he gets, and yet so near that all living beings reside in him. We all live in him. Ya Atmani Tishtati. Anand Sindhu Madhya Tava Vasa Binu Jane Kat Marasi Pyasa. He is so near, and yet so far that the greatest rishis and yogis search for him with all their might, with all their powers and pennas, but are unable to find him. He's so far. There are numerous contradictions listed in the scriptures. Virodhabhas, it's called in Hindi. At one place it is stated, Ajay mano bahudha vijayate. He does not take birth. And yet, immediately afterwards, bahudha, he takes innumerable births. Furthermore, the scriptures tell us that he does not possess any organs, although he's devoid of sense organs, yet he performs all the functions of all the sense organs. The Ramayana illustrates this point beautifully. Binu pag chalai, sunai binu kana, kar binu karma karai vidhinana, anan rahit sakal ras bhogi, binu vani vakta bad jogi, tan binu paras nayan binu dekha, grahi घ्रान बिनु बास असेखा, अस सब भांति अलौकिक करनी, महिमा जासु जाई नहीं बरनी. He walks without feet, hears without ears, and performs actions without hands. He enjoys all tastes without a mouth. He is the most clever speaker, though devoid of speech. He touches without a body, sees without eyes, and smells without a nose. His ways are supernatural in every respect, says Ramayana. And his glory is beyond description. All his works are divine. Thus, how can we ever hope to understand them with our material mind and intellect? So, God is full of contradictions. I will conclude today's talk with an explanation from the Bhagavad, a wonderful verse from the Bhagavad, which is in keeping with his many contradictory aspects. The Bhagavad says, Karmanyani-hasya bhavo bhavasya te durga-shrayo thari bhayat palayanam kalatmano yat pramadayutashrayah Swatman rateh khidyati dhir vidamiha. Beautiful verse from the Bhagavad, 3rd canto, 4th chapter, and 16th verse. Meaning that he does nothing, yet does many things. He's unborn, yet he takes birth. He is self-contented. He's fearless, yet he fears. He is self-contented, yet he's surrounded by innumerable wives, leading the life of a householder. In the case of Dwarika, in Dwarika, Shri Krishna had thousands of wives, 16,108 of them to be exact. So, he is fearless. Yes. The same Vedas who call him fearful. He's so fearful, the same God, yes, the same God about whom the Vedas declare that he's so fearful that even fear is afraid of him. Even Yamaraj, the God of death, is terrified of his wrath. And yet, he fears. He can cause the dissolution, the destruction of innumerable universes by merely raising his eyebrows. And yet, he fears. The Bhagavad tells us the story when Jarasandh attacked Sri Krishna, he ran non-stop. He took to his heels, he kept on running until he reached safely in Dwarika. He heaved a sigh of relief only when he reached Dwarika. This is why even to this day, his devotees in Dwarika call him Ranachor, meaning one who turns his back on the battlefield. In other words, he's a coward. They lovingly call him a coward. So there are so many contradictions. Shukdev Paramhans tells King Parikshit, the narrator of the Bhagavad, Shukdev Paramhans tells King Parikshit that these contradictory aspects and actions of God are beyond the intelligence of even Saraswati and Brihaspati, goddess and god of heaven. Then what about us? Then what to say of us worldly beings? How are we to know him? How can we know him? And if we cannot gain his knowledge, how will we ever attain our ultimate aim of everlasting happiness? So this is a question. I will leave you with this question to think about, to ponder upon, and we will discuss it tomorrow. Until then, Bole Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki Jai, Srimad Sadguru Sarkar Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Jai Shri Radhe.
Thank you very much, Didiji. It was very enlightening and refreshing. Here all the quote scriptures revealed by Jagadguru Maharaj, and we all were found by listening to simple explanation. Once again, and I look forward to all of you coming here tomorrow. And as I said earlier, please let your friends, acquaintances know this is very important philosophy as revealed to the world by Jagadguru Gopalaji Maharaj. And Didiji is explaining us in very simple English. So let's take advantage of this by listening to this all 5 days. Thank you once again, Didiji. Radhe Radhe.
Come and take Aarti and Prasad.